Hello, my fellow HR professionals. This is Eric from Standard Consult. I am a data analyst and also a Microsoft Office specialist. I would like to invite you to our 2023 Data Analytics course for HR professionals. This training seeks to equip the individual with the various tools and skills that are needed to become a professional HR analyst. The training will cover three most important aspects when it comes to data analytics. That is the Microsoft Excel, HR matrices, and also dashboard. Under the Microsoft Excel, we'll be looking at the various functions and formulas that are necessary or that are needed to become a professional data analyst. We'll look at the various charts that are needed when it comes to dashboard. And we also look at the various functions and techniques that we can employ to help us analyze our data, especially pivot tables. We'll also go on and look at the various HR matrices that we can use to measure the performance of our employees and also the performance of the company. We'll look at example, cost per hire, we'll look at revenue per employee, we'll look at the attrition periods and all that. Lastly, but not the least, we'll go on to look at how to create dashboard for decision making and also how to present your data in a way that is globally accepted for management. We'll look at some dashboard, including the HR management dashboard, which will come out beautiful like this. Then we'll also look at, as a group, we'll also decide to look at something on COVID and see how we can present it in a way that we can make meaningful decision out of it. One thing I know for sure is that gives you value for money. I would like to see you all in our next training. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching us from. Welcome to today's episode of Sedat HR Digest, brought to us by Sedat Consult and Quick Fix Creative. You can contact Sedat Consult on 0244 629245, 0244 629245 for all your people and organizational needs. And then you can also contact Quick Fix Creatives on 055 209 0057, 055 209 0057 for all your designing and printing needs. Today's episode is one that I have been waiting for long. Last week we had an interesting discussion on managing diversity and inclusion in the workplace. And today we are looking at the employer branding, the role of the HR practitioner, And our guest today is a seasoned or an expert on this topic. But before I introduce my guest, I would like to remind you that if you have any comment, any question, please drop it in the comment section. We will read it out for our resource person to respond to you. If you want to seek any clarification, put it there. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on all our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Yes, LinkedIn. So please share, comment, get your friends to come on board. Let's learn, unlearn, and relearn. Our guest today is an experienced career coach, a trainer, and a certified human resource professional. His professional interest includes HR planning, employment, talent management, and learning and development with the goal of aligning people with strategy for optimum personal and corporate productivity. He is an instructor at the Cambridge Center of Excellence. He's an HR instructor there. And guys, we made the right choice for today. Emmanuel Woyomi as our resource person for today. Welcome, Emmanuel, to Sadat HR Digest.
Thank you. Thank you, Patience, for having me. It's good to be here today.
Good to have you here too. All right, so Josephine said, good afternoon, madam. Good to have you again. Good to have you again too, Josephine. It's good to see you. Please feel free. Let us know where you are watching us from, and then we would acknowledge you. Right, Emmanuel. We have an interesting topic today, and as said that HR Digest, we believe we made the right choice for bringing you on board to facilitate this topic. Today we are looking at the employer branding, the role of the HR practitioner. All right, and we want to kickstart the discussion, and I want you to help us understand what employer branding is and what goes into employer branding.
Okay. Thank you once again. And regards to all viewers, so branding generally has become very popular in recent times. I'm sure you've heard people taking or attending seminars on personal branding, which is also a form of branding. Before then, we have been used to more of product branding, where branding is applied to products. But and then also institutional or corporate branding, where branding is applied to organization as an entity. But beyond that, we also have employer branding. And so how branding is applied to position an organization as a best place to work. And so that then defines employer branding. So simply, employer branding is about communicating or marketing an organization as the best place to work. And so when you have a good or a positive employer brand, it has several benefits, including ability to attract the best of candidates. In sessions on employer branding, I always ask my audience, which organization do you desire to work with, even though you are not currently working there? And so the organizations that comes to mind to you, those are the organizations with a good employer brand according to your own criteria. However, the places an individual may have as their best place to work may not be the same for somebody else. And so when as an organization and especially as HR professionals, we understand employer branding and its values, then we pay attention to our employer brand, we reinforce it, we communicate it in order to derive enormous benefit from employer branding. And so, what is it about? It's when you are referring to personal branding, you are referring to why should somebody work with you? And so, if you are referring to employer branding, the question is why should an employee or why should individuals choose to work with you? And that involves you defining your employer or employee value proposition. What does the employee seek to gain if they choose to work with you? And it goes beyond salary. It goes beyond just the salary. And that will bring to mind what we can collectively call total rewards. Total rewards. So, total rewards is a major component of the employee value proposition. So, total rewards will obviously include compensation, salary, base pays, and that variable pays. It will also include benefits. And even when we come under benefit, obviously not all organization provides beyond the mandatory benefits. So depending on the one you offer, you will need to define those benefits and communicate it as part of your employer branding communications. The work environment, the work culture, the people, whether the people you'll be working with are friendly, they are all aspects of the value you can communicate to the employer brand. And because the HR professional is in charge of those areas of an organization, they are best in a position to define and communicate the employee value proposition in order to build the employer brand of an entity and also enjoying the benefit of a positive employer brand, including the ability to attract the best of talent for the organization and also able to retain them. Because it is one thing attracting them, and it is another thing retaining them. And so when you are not honest in your communication, if you don't communicate what is really the truth at your workplace, you may end up attracting them. But when they show up at the workplace and they cannot experience what you promised in your employer branding communication, then they will see your place to be a dishonest place and they may want to leave. So just as product branding is focused on the customer, employer branding is focused on the employee. And therefore, if you treat them well, if you care for them, if you are honest in communicating with them, if your policies are fair, it all goes to enhance your employer brand. And so when people come, they will want to stay and contribute to your organization's productive processes.
Interesting. It is one thing attracting them and another thing retaining them. If they come and they don't find what you promised, they would definitely leave you. All right. So, Emmanuel, what role does HR practitioners play in defining the employer brand or the brand of the employer? What role does HR practitioner play?
Okay. A lot of stakeholders play a role in an employer branding process. However, like I said, the HR professional is the responsibility lies on the HR professional. Probably where you work, senior management may not see the need for it, or they've not even thought of why we should build our brand. So the HR professional then becomes the advocate for the organization to be intentional with their employer branding. And so the HR professional will help in developing a very equitable compensation system, since compensation plays a major role in the employee value proposition. Um, the just like in deciding the price for a product for a customer to pay, in deciding how much you pay for employees contribute to the employer branding. And so instead of just assuming that this amount is fair, it will be best employee survey is conducted in order to know the position of the company within the industry. And then they may choose to even pay higher or be among those paying the highest. In this case, they lead. And obviously, if an organization is leading in terms of how much they offer, obviously people will want to work with them. But when they are among the least in how much is paid within the industry, even when other components of your employer brands are attractive, your employees will be at risk from being poached, or they themselves want to leave to a different place. And so making sure that the organization is able to define a very competitive compensation system is very important. Then also some benefit packages or benefits in addition to those compensations are necessary. And so those are a bit more financial, but the non-financial elements are equally important. For instance, sometimes people may want to quit an organization not because how much they are paid is not enough, but because the workplace is toxic or people are not friendly. There are a lot of organizational politics. If they realize the salary is good, but those non-financial elements are not on point, they may equally leave. And so the HR practitioner has to ensure that beyond offering a competitive salary or compensation system, the other non-financial elements are very important. Um, an environment devoid of a lot of toxicity, a friendly work colleagues. And so that's where I'm sure you have questions in that regards, how employees play a role in the employer branding process. I've had an instance where somebody joined a company and just within the probation period, the person has to exit or there was a termination. And that particular individual, I know his capacity or I know his ability. And so you could see the exit is emanating from the fact that there was some form of organizational politics issue that caused the person to exit. So since the goal of branding is to attract and retain people, we need to close every gap or everything that may end up causing people to leave, such as unfriendly work environment, such as unfair HR practices and policies. Those things need to be handled in order to ensure that the employer branding process is effective.
Right. Talking about conducting a survey to know how well um, other industry or your competitors are paying well, so you can match your organization to them. I well, I don't know for others, but
Okay.
it looks like it is very difficult getting such information for your personal
For
analysis.
decisions.
Yes. So in that case, what do you advise the HR person to do? How can what's let me this one? I'm just taking you off our discussion a bit.
I get you.
What do you
Yes.
think the HR practitioner or an HR organization can do to have access to this information so they'll be able to match and place their company well?
Right. So usually two options are available. Either you use an existing research or survey conducted either by the industry or sponsored by a different third party, or you conduct that research by yourself. And
Hmm.
sometimes it may even not be a formal research. If you have a network of HRs in your industry, some phone calls to some of them will help you get an idea. And obviously, you should also be in a position to also give them the information they might need, or some form of reciprocity. You give me some information, I also give you. And
Mm.
so, if you're able to get some good number of HR giving you that information, it can at least help you make some objective decisions. In the absence of that, it means your compensation decision will be based on subjectivity, on guesswork. And so you may end up being among those paying the least, even when you have the ability to pay beyond being among those paying the least, either to match or to lead. And so that is very important. And then also documenting all other good things associated with working with the organization, the benefits, the friendly work colleagues. If it's even sometimes when you read a job advert, when they are communicating that they incorporate it into their job adverts. They can tell you they offer hybrid. So if you offer flexible work options, you incorporate that in your employee value proposition, and you communicate that. And there are several platforms through which the employee value proposition is communicated. Maybe as we go along, we'll delve into some of the channels of communicating the employee value proposition.
I guess you are already answering my next question. So I was going
Okay.
to ask, what strategies can HR practitioners use to enhance their employer brand, such as through recruitment, employee engagement, and social
Good.
media?
Good, good. So these days, unlike during the days of traditional media, you only have access to newspaper, radio, and TV to communicate your brand. But thanks to social media or growth in technology, there are several platforms. And sometimes when I visit some company's website, I'm able to identify and also know that these guys are intentional with their employer brand. And so in their recruitment, they communicate their employee value proposition and ultimately their employer brand in their job advertisement, either on radio, TV, newspaper, LinkedIn, any other platform they might be using.
Mm,
Facebook, all the social media platform, they do that. It is also published on their website at
mm,
their careers page. You can see we offer competitive salary or compensation. We offer hybrid, competitive or attractive benefits, and they state all those good things, especially when they are really true. Because there's one thing communicating it, and it is another thing ensuring it is the reality at the workplace.
yeah.
Like I said, when you exaggerate and they come and do not experience what you promise, they get disappointed and they may
Mm,
want to leave. But those platforms during when they haven't come yet, you use the job advertisement platforms. But when they are already in, you also need to keep on communicating and reinforcing it. So at employee desk, those things can be communicated. You can even periodically print out your total reward statements. If employee get access to only pay slip, they will only judge what they are getting from the company based on what is on the payslip. But they
yeah.
are getting more than what is on the payslip. So periodically, you can print out a total reward statement which captures all the good things they are offering to them beyond their salaries. And that
Mm,
reinforces all that you are offering to them. If you offer opportunities for career growth and it is the realities, let people know about it. If you are offering hybrid, and these days a lot of people prefer hybrid, reinforce that communication. And when the employee really agrees with you that what you promise is exactly what you are delivering, the trust level between the employee and the employer grows better. And
yeah.
when that trust is there, it has a spillover effect on several aspects of the
Mm,
employer-employee relationship. They will want to stay. They will want to experience more. They are more motivated and obviously engaged to put up their best. And obviously, the organization gain from that.
mm, mm,
But when they leave their employer branding on autopilot, on default, to grow by itself without developing it intentionally, then they may not have the control over it and it may grow to a negative employer brand, which may affect employee morale and obviously contribute to unfavorable turnovers. So, employer branding is very key, especially in these days where employees have options. There are a lot of options to employees these days. Um, for those who are keen to news, for the past 2 years, in some part of the world, a lot of people have quit from their former regular 8 to 5 jobs or 9 to 5 jobs. And
yeah.
when they are able to find alternative work options and even make more of what they were receiving as salaries.
Mm,
So, meaning attracting and retaining employees has become extra more challenging than before. A lot of people are considering freelancing opportunities on platforms like Fiverr, Upwork, and the rest. And so, if they are not engaged, if they are not happy with working with a particular organization, they may resign and take up a freelancing opportunity and do the same work and even get more time or more freedom and to enjoy other aspects of their lives or to enjoy work-life balance. That
mm,
is why offering some work-life balance opportunities such as hybrid or remote work enhances a company's employer brand. We were fortunate that or somehow unfortunate, the COVID situation caused a lot of organizations to adopt remote work or hybrid. But unfortunately, a lot of them have reversed back to the office-based system completely. When the employees have just enjoyed that combination of remote and in-person. And
mm,
so I know people who have quit their full-time job to consider some of those remote options. And I also know some colleagues who have promised themselves that they are no more interested in office work where you drive to work every day, but they are now looking for remote work. So when employers understand this, and in a way to build their employer brand to attract and retain talent, they need to incorporate some of these flexible work options such as remote work or hybrid, and they'll be in a better position to attract and retain great talent. Let me add quickly that beyond the job adverts, beyond the website and social media, if you happen to visit or attend career fairs, it is also one platform to communicate your employer brand. If you visit a particular university to pitch yourself at a career fair, if you happen to get any opportunity to speak to people one-on-one or to an audience, it is also important you communicate your employer brand. Answering the question, why should people work with us? So keep that question in mind. Always you prepare your answer in advance. If job candidates come to an interview, they are not just looking for another place to work and get a salary to pay for their needs, especially if they are not entry level candidates. Most of the executive level employees go beyond looking for a place to work to make a living. They are looking for a place to fulfill their dreams. So if you can answer their question, why should I work with you? And you are able to communicate the benefit associated with working with you as an employer beyond salary to meet their basic needs, you'll be in the best position to attract and keep them over time for your production purposes.
Right. Thank you, Woyome. It's I mean, I'm enjoying the conversation. And one thing we should all know, I mean, one thing you said that's I mean, I was like, whoa, is that trust has a spillover effect. And so
Exactly.
do not promise anything that in reality is not happening. If you do that,
Exactly.
you will damage your your
Your
brand. And
brand, your
yeah, no-
reputation.
your reputation, nobody would want to work with you. And don't forget to always ask yourself first, why should people work with us? Thank you very much. Well, we want to look at, are there any metrics that we can use to measure the effectiveness of our branding efforts as HR practitioners?
Great, great. There are several matrices. Most of them will be related to even the acquisition stage. For instance, if you have a great employer brand, whenever you advertise a vacant role, you will have both quality and quantity of applications. You will have a number of people applying to your job openings, and you also have not just a number or many of them, you have quality candidates. And you can use yield ratio to calculate that. Yield ratio is one metrics, one way of measuring your recruitment effectiveness. So if 1,000 people applied, and out of those 1,000 candidates, 500 of them were actually qualified, it tells you your recruitment process was almost 50% effective. Meaning out of the total number that applied, 50% of them or 500% of them were really qualified. But there are instances where you could have 1,000 people applying for a particular role, but only 10%, just about 100 of them qualify for the role. But when your employer brand is very great and positive, you attract quantity and quality of job candidates. So that's one aspect, especially with the acquisition stage. It also can be manifested through turnover ratio. If a lot of people are staying, people are not leaving the organization, and it isn't because they can't find another job that they qualify for, then you can be sure your employer brand is very attractive. And so when people come, they want to stay. There are instances where people really are not comfortable with a particular organization's employer brand. but they just haven't found another opportunity to go, so they will stay. But all things being equal, if people are staying because not because they have not found another opportunity, that will also give you an indication that your employer brand is very positive, and therefore when people come, they are staying. So your retention metrics can also help to determine whether your employer brand is really attractive or otherwise. And when your brand is very great, one, your employees will stay, they will stay and contribute to your processes. They will also say, they begin to automatically, by default, not you telling them, they begin to choose themselves as the organization's brand ambassadors. They begin to tell people. You don't tell them to tell people.
Absolutely.
For instance, you can also judge from referrals from employees. If employees are referring job candidates to your openings, that means they love what they are experiencing there, and they are referring opportunities to their friends or their colleagues to also come. When your employer brand is negative or unattractive, they don't feel comfortable testifying about your organization. And I've experienced an instance where a colleague who has exited a particular organization had a prospective employee to his role calling him to find out what he thinks about where he's intending to go. And just to be honest, he was frank to tell him the truth about the particular place he intends to go and work, so that he would decide for himself. But most of the time, you tell job candidates, they may not agree with you, so they will go and examine or to experience it for
They want to
themselves.
see for themselves.
Exactly. So when they go and they realize that the reality that was communicated to them is what they are experiencing, then they will begin to use your internet or your resources to look for another job. They will use your office time, they will use your internet, they will use your office resources in your own office looking for another opportunity. And that is why it is important. And so the metrics, as in the quantity and the quality of job candidates you get, your retention rates, also your turnover rate, those can help. And then the number of people who are being referred by your existing employees. That's why some recruiting processes, they will ask either the job candidates or the individual who eventually got the job how they heard about the opportunity. It's a monitoring mechanism to see whether the candidate is coming based on a referral from an existing employee or otherwise. Yeah, so all some of those metrics can help an HR professional to determine how positive or otherwise of their employer brand.
All right, thank you, Woyome. So if your employer branding is positive, your acquisition metrics will help you, your
Yes,
retention metric will help you, your turnover
yes,
metric will help you, and your employee
exactly.
referral metric, they would all expose the fundamentals to you. So you don't have to worry. Thank you so much. I'm enjoying the
Okay.
conversation. Want to go for a quick break, and then when we come back, we would ask Woyome to explain to us how HR practitioners can leverage on employee advocacy to enhance the employer brand.
Great.
All right, so while we wait to go on break, I'd like to remind you of the upcoming HR analytics training. As an HR practitioner, you should be able to play with the numbers that are available to you to make informed decision. You should be able to in your reporting, management, senior management team should be able to make sound decisions from your HR reports. It shouldn't only be the qualitatives and then all those. We should be able to make sound decisions from our reports, and that is the more reason why you need to join the upcoming HR analytics training. You should be able to design your own dashboard, use the pivot table to make decisions, and it will help you. I have been in this training before. Now I build my own HR dashboard. I do my own analytics and do my own interpretations, and it's a good course to take. All right, Zachary, thank you so much for joining us. Judith, thank you. Educhum Ajiman watching us from Sunyani. Thank you. Judith is watching us from Accra. Zachary says hello. Jerome, thank you, Jerome, for joining. Jerome says very insightful session. Positive employer branding grows businesses, especially in handling exit employees. That is very true, very right. All right, so we want to take a quick break and then we will come back. And when we come back, Woyome will help us to explain, or you would help us understand how HR practitioners can leverage on employee advocacy in building the employer brand. Welcome back from the break. This is Sedat HR Digest, brought to you by Sedat Consult and Quick Fix Creatives. You can contact Sedat Consult on 0244 629245, 0244 for all your HR and organizational needs, and also Quick Fix Creatives on 055 209 0057, 055 209 0057 for all your designing and printing needs. Today we are discussing the employer branding, the role of the HR practitioner, and our resource person is Emmanuel Woyome, an HR instructor at the Cambridge Center and of excellence. Let me add that before Emmanuel comes to add that Cambridge Center of Excellence. All right, and it's been insightful so far. I'm enjoying the discussion. We are learning a lot. Now, before we went on the break, I said when we come back, Emmanuel will help us understand how HR practitioners can leverage on employee advocacy in building the employer brand. So, Emmanuel, help us. How can we do that as HR practitioners?
Okay. So there are 5 main assets of an organization: the money, the materials, the methods, the machines, and ultimately the men. And the men is those that are able to manage all other assets. And the HR is responsible for managing the men in order for the organization to get maximum returns on their investment in that asset of men. And obviously, HR's work involves advocacy. Like I said, the general institutional or product branding is focusing on delighting the customer who is paying for the product of an entity. But the employee is almost the first customer who is in-house first, serving the paying customer. So sometimes we do the mistake of forgetting about them as customers as well. And so in our advocacy process, we are seeking for their welfare as customers as well. So just as the marketing department or the customer service department is seeking to delight the paying customers, the HR department also functions as a customer service department serving the in-house customers, in this case, the employees. And so whatever is necessary to have for the employee in order to delight them and also enhance the employer brand is worth considering by management. And so the HR will advocate for that. If, for instance, employees are finding it difficult to come to work based on transportation challenges, can we provide a bus system for the employees? It is for the process or the purpose of delighting the employee in order to engage them and retain them. If you believe the recent economic crisis we are facing in our part of the world has really affected their purchasing power, and for that reason, there is a need for a COLA, there is a need for a cost of living adjustment. You advocate for that in order to also please the in-house customer who is even needed to be happy first, so that when they go out serving the paying customer, they go out serving with joy. But when they are grieved, when they are not happy, that they are forced to go and serve the paying customer, they go with frustration, they go with anger, and obviously that emotion they carry will extend to the customer service experience dealing with the paying client. So advocating for employees' welfare, advocating for their professional development, advocating for policies that are fair are necessary on the part of the HR practitioner in order to enhance the employer brand and obviously contribute to attraction and retention of talent for the organization. Because organizations win not because of how much money they have, because of how many great talents they have. At least those of us that love football can testify that with a particular team that has all the resources. But at a point, they were not winning because their people were not performing, not that they didn't have money. And so, as we compete in a very competitive environment, when we pay attention to our employees, when we advocate for their welfare, when we advocate for a positive experience for them, it is to the benefit of the employer. And obviously, that will enhance the employer brand as well.
When you advocate for the welfare of your employees, it would definitely go a long way to have a positive effect on your employer brand. As an HR practitioner today, I know we do that, but today I have added one department, an invisible department or indirect department to the HR department. That is the internal customer service department. So please, your employees are your customers. When you treat them well, they will treat your external customers for you. Amazing discussion, Woyome. So then I want us to look at how HR practitioners can collaborate with other departments within the organization when it comes to the employer branding. How can the HR department, what are the specific things that HR practitioners or HR managers or HR supervisors or officers or directors can do so that they can collaborate with other departments to promote the brand?
Great. Good question. Like I said, even though the HR professional is responsible for employer branding is a multi-stakeholder process. It is a process. It's not an event that starts and ends. It is always ongoing. And each member of staff plays a major role. So employees even play a role. Other functional heads play a major role. So for instance, if the finance department delays in paying, maybe the company pays on the 25th of every month, and employees have planned their life to have access to their salary at that month, but salaries are delayed. Obviously, it will affect their experience. It will affect their satisfaction with the organization. And I know one organization that always pays on time, and they have made it a policy that they pay on the 25th of every month. And so employees are sure on that day everybody will get their salary. So they also plan their life around it. Even when the 25th will fall on a weekend, they pay the Friday before. Or if the 25th, 25th will be a Sunday, they pay on the 26th. And it is guaranteed. And that alone delights employees. And
Yeah.
so all other stakeholders, the functional heads, senior management, and even the CEO, the decision makers are very much required in this process. If they don't understand the value of employer branding, they will not even pay attention to it. And whatever advocacy the HR practitioner does will not be given a listening ear. So people, we may not need to be HR practitioner to understand employer branding, but every senior management member needs to read about it, see it value, its benefits, and then play their respective roles. So like I said, the finance department will help to pay salary on time. Um, those are the security gates. You know, you may think those are the gates do not play important role. If they don't treat the employees, getting the place for them to park or delighting them in whatever way. So everybody, just like we have in the marketing concept, where every employee gets involved in delighting the paying customer, the same principle is applied in employer branding, where every organizational member or stakeholder plays a major role in delighting the employee. So, for instance, if you have somebody who bullies other employees, obviously you are not delighting a particular employee. So, when policies are there to guide behavior, and people live in compliance with the policies. They do not harass people either sexually or whatever form. They respect people. They do not throw tantrums. They do not insult, but they see their fellow employees as some customer that needs to be delighted. Then we create a peaceful work environment that is conducive for everybody. But all these, the HR champions it, but it benefits everybody else. And all stakeholders, including senior management, needs to understand and approve certain policies that will contribute to enhancing the employer brand.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. How much you have does not determine how great you are. It's a great talent that you have. And so make sure you are doing your best and doing everything within your ability to delight your employees, to delight the people you work with, to delight the people that serve your paid customers. And you can be sure that they would help you sell your brand. All right. So Josephine says, great presentation. Thank you, Emmanuel. I am learning a lot. Thank you, Josephine. I'm also learning a lot over here. And then she says, when insiders are happy, outsiders are happy too. Thank you, Josephine. Nicola says, I am watching you live from Pong, Eastern Ghana. Thank you, Nicholas, for watching us. Jerome says, yes, HR has a critical role in branding the employer by instituting an effective employee assistance program at the workplace. Wow. Woyome, would you want to comment on this before we move on?
Yes, obviously. So it's part of the services or the benefit they gain. For instance, people may have some personal life crisis and they will need a counselor. So if you care for your employees, you make available those employee assistance program, and then they can get some interventions. If you want your employees to keep fit and be strong in order for them to be productive, you may want to provide an in-house gym, or you get them signed on to an external gym so that you get them to go and keep fit and be strong, all for the sake of delighting them in order for them to be active in delighting your paying customers. So everything the organization does in-house that enhances the employees obviously contribute to the employer branding, including the employee assistance program that Jerome has added.
All right, thank you. Our time is up, but before we take the final words of Woyome, I would want to find out. We've spoken a lot about HR driving the employer branding activity or effort. So, how can HR managers, HR practitioners collaborate with senior managers to ensure that employer branding is a priority within the organization? What are some of the specific things we can do to ensure that employer branding is a priority? Because sometimes HRs will do all their best to push advocate for the employee, and then the senior managers will sit and say that you want to waste money, this is not necessary, this doesn't matter, and all that. How can HR managers collaborate with senior managers to ensure that employer branding is a priority?
Right. That's a great question. Until people understand the value of something, they will not pay much attention. So it could be that they are not giving assent to some of our proposal because we never made a case for it. And so if we can communicate the benefit it will bring to the organization, if we can even point to certain crises they are experiencing, if, for instance, from your data, you could trace that your voluntary turnover rate is very increasing, very high, then you can tell that the reason could be that. So if you have data to support your decision, they are more prone to understanding and believing in your proposal that if you just present a raw proposal to them. And so let's find reasons associated with our decisions. So why do you think we should increase salary? Why do you think we should provide employee bus system? Why do you think we should provide employee assistance program? Why do you think we should sign our employees on a gym program? If we explain further to give some positive reasons and how it will contribute to the organization, they see more reason to understand. And in making that decision, a lot of data is required. Other than presenting a subjective case, if you present a data-driven case, they are able to see the numbers for themselves and they may want to respond. And that's why I like the fact that the SEDAT Consult is always organizing courses on HR analytics. Over the years, HRs have presented more of narrative report or proposals. But when we begin to present data-driven reports and proposals or proposal with some data, they are able to see numbers for themselves. And numbers, as they say, don't lie. And based on that data and propositions, they may be able to understand.
Thank you, Woyome. You need to make a data-driven case so they would understand you. All right, so there's a question here. Nicola says, how do we address politics within the organization? Politics not as in MPP and NDC.
Yes, it's a very broad topic on its own.
Yeah.
Even where we think there's no politics, there may still be some pieces of politics behind the scene, and there will always be. But I believe a very comprehensive and fair policy can enhance that. So, for instance, if there is a policy on who gets steady leave, and the policy is that if you work 5 years, you can get steady leave with pay, then you also comply. So when somebody has worked for 5 years and has applied for steady leave with pay, then we are obliged to also honor our part of the policy, meaning the law governing that company is working. But when we don't have policies, or we even have the policies but we don't apply them, then it's just like we don't have policy. And so people will make decisions based on how they feel. So somebody may work for 3 years, and based on their relation with somebody, they may get steadily with pay when the policy says 5 years working in the organization before you get steadily with pay. So policy that is complied, policy that the organization really works with, and obviously that alone will contribute to the employer brand. If you have a policy but you don't apply it, you still make decisions outside the policy, then people will believe that in this organization or in this company, there is no law or there is no rule, because even though we have a documented policy, some decisions are still being made by how people feel, and
Mm.
people will begin to start running for their life. So running an organization, as I'll always say, is like running a mini nation. And so if your laws are working, it enhances discipline, it ensures the right things are done, and it may contribute to getting rid of organizational politics, all things being equal. But in the absence of policies, decisions will be made by how people feel, and some of those decisions will not be fair and also will not be consistent. The
Mm.
consistency is a key ingredient in building a brand, whether it's a product brand, a personal brand, an employer brand, or even a corporate brand. And so
Mm.
policy ensures that, and it may also help in getting rid of organizational politics. So my
Consistency is a key ingredient in building the employer brand. And running an organization is like running a mini nation. So please, you are you are in your whole in your own country, and so
yeah,
make sure your policies, your laws, and everything, I mean, is well in place. Don't pick and choose who benefits from who benefits from which policy that exists within your organization. And so please make sure you treat everybody equally, be fair in your treatment and in the application of your policies. So Jerome says, question well answered. Thank you, Jerome. And thank you so much, Woyome, for joining us today. It's been very, 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 very insightful. It's been good listening and learning from you. We want to take your final words, and then when you are done, we would close for today.
all right. So even before I say my final words, just to say thank you to Sedat Consult for having me on this program. And we hope to have further communications on this as time goes on. But my
Absolutely.
final word is just to re-emphasize the need for employer branding. Like I
Mm,
said, people are one of the key assets of an organization, and attracting and retaining them is the best ever business strategy. And when you have a positive employer brand, it helps in your attraction and retention. And so you're able to attract quality talents and you are
mm.
able to retain them. And with a good talent, you are able to beat your competitors and achieve your business goals and objectives. And with that, I have no option than to say organization to pay attention to their employer brand for their own sake, for their own success and survival sake. In the absence of that, they will find it difficult to attract and retain talent, and that will obviously affect their business strategies. So, on this note, I'll just pause here and say thank you once again for having me.
Thank you to Emmanuel for joining us. Organizations should pay attention to their employer branding for their own sake. If you do it, you do it for your own sake. We want to say a very big thank you to all of you for joining us for today. It's been very insightful. I mean, we have really enjoyed our conversation with you, Emmanuel. And please don't forget to like, share, and comment on all our social media handles. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and then YouTube. Share with your friends. In fact, after the session, what we do is that we still post the link to the conversation, and so you can, at any point in time when you want to come back and listen, or just go over whatever we have discussed, you are at the liberty to do that. Share with people, your friends, those who couldn't join us today, so they can also learn. We need this at the workplace, because when we take care of the insiders, they will take care of the outsiders for us. Today's episode is brought to us by Sedat Consult. You can reach Sedat Consult on 0244629245. 0244629245, and then Quick Fix Creatives on 05520900057, 05520900057 for all your designing and printing needs. Don't forget to register for the upcoming HR analytics training. Remember, Woyomo mentioned that you need to present a data-driven case, and for you to be able to do so, you need to have your analytics right. And that is the more reason why you need to join this training. Thank you so much for coming, and we will meet you next week for another interesting discussion. Thank you for joining us.